Hi, this is Astrid, and welcome to my channel. This will be the first in a series of videos featuring the Luna recording system as a console app. Yes, I'm not interested in learning a new DAW, but I am so appreciative of Universal Audio for creating Luna because of its deep integration with the console. You can use it as a console too, which is what this video will cover. So I am using it currently with Ableton, but because of the deep integration, you should be able to use it with other DAWs as well. I'm going to be covering Reason Studio, and then I'll be covering Logic last. But today we're going to start with Ableton. But let's kind of get some of the routing things out of the way first before we even dive into Luna. So this is the old console that everybody knows and loves. It comes with your UAD product. It allows you to be able to do routing for your inputs and your outputs. Let me just show you how I have things set up. So my input-output matrix is just a standard input-output template for an Apollo 8. I don't have anything mapped special within it. I'm using the preset template that came with it. The thing to note in here before we get started, for people who are not Universal Audio interface device users, the output side does not match the input side. The output side will always be different because ports channel 1 and 2 are for the main outputs on the back of your UAD interface device. In this case, I have an Apollo 8. So you won't get a one-to-one match. And this will make more sense when I start talking about the virtual port and how it's routed. But I just want to make sure that you're aware of that. So when you start digging into your console, trying to figure out how things are mapped, just note and remember that the input side does not match the output side. And the reason why is the output side utilizes channel 1 and 2 for your main monitor outs. So that's just a tip. Okay, so what I have physically connected to my Apollo interface. So on channel 1, I have a microphone. I don't have anything on channel 2. Channel 3, I have my No Coast. Channel 4, my Mother 32. Nothing on 5 and 6 for the analogs. I have a return channel on 7 and 8. My Prophet is where it starts to get into the ADAT side. I actually have a Scarlett Octopre that's connected with ADAT cables on to the back of my UAD device, and the Prophet is on ports 1 and 2. And I also have my guitar amp, which is it's a Line 6 1500 Firehawk, which is a modeling amp. It has ports on the back of it that allow me to be able to connect it to analog ports on the Scarlett interface, which are 3 and 4. Okay, so that's it for the console. We're just going to close that out. Now we're going to open up and look at Miss Luna. So actually, you know what? Let me just leave that open side by side so you can kind of see the deep integration while I'm thinking about it. Because if you do things over here, things over there change as well. So that's what I mean by deep integration. These things work cohesively together from an input-output perspective. Also the inserts, the sends, the monitoring chain, it's all the same. Where it gets interesting is how Luna handles some of the more technical stuff with the real-time features, the DSP, which you cannot do within the console. I've tried it. It does not work. I was so hoping that I would just be able to open up Luna and have her be minimized and then just deal with the console, which I don't really mess with that often. Again, I have a preset template set up for my input or for the physical devices that I use. And for all you other Universal Audio users, you know that your virtual port, which gets automatically assigned to anything that's like audio bound on the computer, it's normally on ports 26 and 27. Well, for me it is, but you can change that if you want, with that routing, the routing setups. But those are traditionally the only channels that you use, is the one virtual channel, and then any of the physical gear gets actually assigned a hard channel. So that's normally how it works. So you can set it up to where you have more virtual channels if you want to split things out more. I really don't see the benefits in it quite for me. I haven't found the benefit for it. But once I have set up my template and got things set up in a functioning, working way, this was the easiest way for me to be able to kind of utilize the console the way that it is. Okay, moving right along. Let's keep going here. Okay, so I created audio tracks for all of my instances for my physical devices, and for those two ADAT channels. Where it gets interesting is with the virtual channels, because I needed something to be able to drive those virtual instances so that I could take advantage of the recording engine. I had to physically route them to an audio port. So that's what's special about the setup. So again, I've created audio channels for the mic, for my, there's another thing that's in here, the access virus. Recently, when I upgraded to the Mac OS Catalina, I discovered that when I went to use my access virus, that the embedded USB audio interface no longer works. The driver for it doesn't work anymore. So I ended up having to route the audio for it out to SPDIF, which only gives me one channel to work with, but I never normally run more than one patch or two at the same time concurrently within it, so I can get away with using it that way. But I have that set up here as well. I have the No Coast on mic channel or line 3. I have the Mother 32 again is on line 4. The Prophet 1 and 2, or ADAT 1 and 2. There's the guitar instance. It's ADAT 3 and 4. And I have a return that's actually physically routed to a Korg Chaos pad that I use as a return within Ableton. And you'll see that when I open up Ableton. So that's on line 7 and 8. Okay. And again, this is where it gets interesting. So technically you don't need more than just one virtual port instance when you're working within your DAW. But I created a secondary one. So I brought in virtual ports 1 and 2. And then I created another audio channel and I brought in virtual ports 3 and 4. So that gives me 2 channels to work with, and I could create more if I wanted. Again, you just need to open up your routing, which is this view. And we're talking about outputs. So again, when you're looking at the outputs for your Apollo interface, we're talking about this side, not that side. This can be very confusing to somebody not familiar with this. And I just kind of want to make sure that you're aware of how this is set up, because if you start looking at the input side thinking that it should match up with the output side, yeah, you're not going to have good luck with that. The output side is very different because of those two main outs. So again, my virtual instance for my virtual instance 2, which is what I set up inside of Ableton, is set to ports 23 and 24. And over here, see, it's virtual 3 and 4. All right, so that is how everything is physically connected and routed. So now let's go to Ableton. I'm going to close out of that. I'm going to move Luna off to the side here. And I'm going to open up Live. Okay, so things are very, very simple with this setup. So what I did is I changed my master from 1 and 2 to that virtual instance 23 and 24 port out, and I matched up my Q outs as well for 23 and 24 to mirror it. So now when I want to record something using the Live engine, all I have to do is change my external outputs on my channel to 23 and 24. This allows you to bypass Ableton's built-in buffering system. This little bad boy latency monster here. So when you push it out, it doesn't utilize the DAW's internal workings. It utilizes whatever's connected to it, which in this case is Luna. And it's using this port right here, or this channel right here. I'm using my MPC software, and if you've been on my channel for a while, you know that I stopped using the controller quite some time ago, and I'm using everything through the push too. So I created a drum rack, which allows me to be able to trigger the pads for the MPC software from the push. And for this to work, you need to make sure that you have it in monitor auto. And this is only because of Ableton. Also, over on within Luna, make sure that you, on that virtual instance, put it in solo mode. And because I'm using my microphone with it, I have to be careful with it not to do that right now. But it creates a loop. So I have it in auto on this side, and I have my have it routed out to 23 and 24, and I'm using the MPC. So this is all real time. So I could actually finger drum. Okay, so let me show you what that experience is like without it. So this is through Ableton. Let me show you that. See how much latency there is? See, that's super annoying. Now, normally what I try to do before Luna is I would change the buffer settings. Let me even show you what that experience is like. I was never seriously ever able to get the buffer settings low enough to where I could really use it without causing myself a lot of trouble. So let me show you that. I changed my samples to 64. See how bad that is? That's why this is like a total game changer for me, because it allows me to be able to use my MIDI devices the way that they're intended to be used. So for the most part, you get used to doing that. You get used to the latency and you start using the piano roll a whole lot more. But that is just not a natural way of playing, and it's not inspiring at all. It makes you not really want to finger drum, which is why I put my MPC away a long time ago, the controller. I really stopped using it as a sequencer to drive things because I was always really frustrated with the way there was just too much latency to have it be a realistic way of having it as part of my workflow. When you're ready to bounce everything out to a single file or to individual stems, make sure that you set everything back to master channel. Let me show you that. So this is how it should look when you're ready to start bouncing things out. If you don't, I found that it doesn't include the channels that are pointed to 23 and 24 in the recording. And that's just a little odd behavior that I've found with this setup. Other than that, that's the only odd thing that I've found with it. So I do have like a recording template that I normally use for all of my new projects. So when I open up a new Ableton instance, these things on this side of the screen are automatically brought into a project, even though I may not use them. And I have them all disabled so that they're not consuming resources. But like for my guitar, I had it set up so that it's always pointed to 23 and 24 out. And for my vocal chain, I have it set up to 23 and 24 as well. But it looks like I need to do some work on my template. I need to make sure all of these individual audio tracks within the group that I created are pointed to 23 and 24 as well. That way when I go to use it in my template, there's not any tweaking or anything that I need to do. Also, on my vocal chain, and also if you're using Ableton for recording vocals, I always have the monitor modes turned completely off, which reduces or allows you to only hear what's coming from the actual input channel within the console itself. So your headphone amp, if you're using a headphone amp, which is why I have my cues out on the same master channel, it's hearing the feed from this directly. So there's no latency at all from it. So that's how I have my template set up. Other than that, that's probably the only other little thing that to note in the setup for Ableton. So now that you see the difference in how it's working within Ableton, I'm hoping that you find that this information is useful to you. Again, I'll be posting up videos showing how I'm using my UAD interface with Luna in Reason, as well as Logic. I'm sorry, Fruit Loops users. I don't have Fruit Loops. I've never got into using it, so maybe somebody will post up a video showing how to do that in Fruity Loops. Well, that's all I have for this particular video, and if you have any comments or questions, please leave those in the comment section, and I'll respond back as soon as I can. Thanks for watching.